Hi, I'm Susanna Bowling and this is T2C Online. Today we have the great honor to interview Andre DeShields, actor, writer, director, choreographer, dancer, educator. He is a jack of all trades and exquisite at all of them. Can you tell us how you got started?
Long story short, when I became friends with my mother, she would tell me stories about how she dreamed to be a dancer. And my father would tell me stories about how he dreamed to be a singer. So I believe that X and Y chromosome came together, and out came singer, dancer, baby Andre. My very first Broadway show was called Warp, W-A-R-P. It was billed as the world's first episodic science fiction adventure play. It came in from the Organic Theater Company in Chicago, where I honed my craft in experimental theater. It ran only for 2 weeks here, was summarily dismissed by the New York critics. And when the company, Organic Theater Company, returned to Chicago, that was 1973. Fast forward, by the fall of '74, I was rehearsing for the 4 years I spent in Chicago working in theater, right out of school, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I was acting. When I came to New York and that show I mentioned earlier, Warp, closed, and started presenting myself before casting directors, being a black man in the performing arts, I was asked 2 questions. 1, can you sing? 2, can you dance? Fortunately, I was able to say yeah, from the way I grew up in Baltimore. Now, I'm not formally trained, so what I did in the audition process put me in a category all to myself, which is why I was fortunate enough to get shows like The Wiz, Aint Misbehavin, Play On, The Full Monty. It wasn't until 1996 that I was able to turn that corner, which is the most difficult thing to do in this industry. Most people think the most difficult thing to do is to get employment. No, the most difficult thing to do is to change the perception of yourself in the industry, because once you're put in that niche, singer, dancer, Andre DeShields, it's hard to shake it. In 1996, I had an opportunity to perform as Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman. And many people raised their eyebrows and shook their heads and smirked. But I made a convincing Willie. And that's when Michael Feingold, of all people who reviews for The Village Voice, referred to me as Andre DeShields, distinctive actor, and the label stuff.
Where did you do Death of a Salesman?
At the Oasis Theater, which is on the campus of Buffalo State College, which is part of the SUNY.
You're off the theater section and go into your film section. You've had a chance to work with Viggo Mortensen.
Now, when I worked with Viggo Mortensen, and we're now talking 1988, he was at the beginning of his career. He was being discovered. Now, I won't say that the film Prison, which was promoted as a psychological drama, a thriller, I won't say that launched his career, but it was the one that I believe brought attention to him in Hollywood. So, having worked with Viggo in '88, I can't say that I know him. But when I worked with this young man, he was ever so amenable, accessible, very much the method actor. Not that he looked like Marlon Brando, but he mumbled passionately like Marlon Brando. And I knew, even from my naive perspective in terms of being a film actor, I knew that of the group of people who did Prison, he was the chosen one. I think I did a great job in the film, playing a Haitian voodoo convict. But you know, we're still fighting that battle in the performing arts, stereotyping people of color. Of course, we are pushing the envelope. I sometimes have been called the poster boy for non-traditional casting, but we haven't made as many strides as we'd like to. I have made part of my mission to argue the point that the American canon of dramatic literature cannot be the exclusive domain of white actors. Otherwise, it's not American.
You had a chance to do I Dream of Jeannie.
15 years later.
15 years later.
It was so much fun doing I Dream of Jeannie 15 years later, because I remember watching it as a child. The selling point of that particular television film, was that Jeannie, for the first time, Barbara Eden, for the first time, was going to reveal her navel. And of course, we had also made those strides I was talking about in terms of non-traditional casting, right. Because if you go back to the sitcom on television, when you saw Haji, T7, when the Manhattan Theater Club was still located on East 73rd Street between 1st and 2nd Avenue. And its cabaret seated only 60 people, which is where Aint Misbehavin started. And we were diligently doing our work, but at the time, it was an amorphous idea that Murray Horowitz had and took to Richard Maltby. We had a stack of music, and I don't exaggerate, about 3 feet high. And our rehearsal process was taking one piece of music at a time and passing it to the 5 of us who were Nell Carter, Ken Page, Amelia McQueen, Andre DeShields, and Irene Cara. So once the show got up, and on the small stage, the proscenium stage at Manhattan Theater Club, was playing Arthur Fugard's Letters from Soweto. Okay. And as people would come into the venue, we thought, oh, they're going to see Letters from Soweto. Lo and behold, they were coming to see Aint Misbehavin. One day, Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy came in the pillbox hat, the whole thing, and we assumed she's going to see Fugard. She came to see Aint Misbehavin. So we thought, we must be doing something right. Then, the following week, Manny Eisenberg was sitting in the audience, and then the following week, Gerald Schoenfeld was sitting in the audience, and then we knew something unusual is going on here. 4 months later, we were opening on Broadway at the Longacre Theater. Most people and critics received us as a review, and that shows you how clever we were in putting Aint Misbehavin together. There isn't a book per se, but the interstitial material, the connective tissues that bind the show together, was so effective in its narrative and its storytelling that it really was received as a musical, and it took the Tony that year for Best Musical. So Hollywood started looking then. Then when Nell Carter won her Tony as a featured actor in a musical, and she got her television show, it made sense that NBC would take one of their stable stars and recreate the show for which she won her Tony in Hollywood.
You won a Tony nomination for The Full Monty. It seemed like...
And for Play On. I have 2 Tony nominations. There is a very exciting, intimate company uptown in Manhattan on St. Nicholas and 141st Street called the Classical Theater of Harlem. I spent 6 seasons with the Classical Theater of Harlem, getting under my belt some traditional work. Because since that turn in Death of a Salesman, I was bitten. I was bitten by
Dramatic.
that bug, that opportunity that allows you, in the words of Tennessee Williams, to make voyages away from the person you currently are. And dramatic literature does that more effective than musical literature. And in the founding artistic director of the Classical Theater of Harlem at the time, Alfred Preiser, I discovered a companion, a collaborative mate. We had a series of seasons where we worked every year, and we did 6 productions. Series of seasons where we worked every year, and we did 6 productions together.
What are some of your most memorable roles from that?
King Lear.
Nice.
Macaque in Derek Walcott's Dream on Monkey Mountain. The narrator in Langston Hughes's adaptation of Black Nativity, which is the Christmas story done from an Afrocentric point of view. An adaptation of Molière's Tartuffe, which was called Archbishop Supreme Tartuffe. Those are several of my memorable collaborations with the Classical Theater of Harlem. My upcoming cabaret concert, Black by Popular Demand, which will open on this coming Friday, May 4th, at the Laurie Beachman Theater, which is downstairs from the West Bank Cafe, 407 West 42nd Street, right in the heart of Times Square. I work with 2 lovely women and a pianist, Frida Williams, Malena Danielle, and Larry Spivak. And we do an 86-minute marathon of R&B music. We do Let the Good Times Roll to open up, Laissez le bon temps rouler. We do a song by the Bee Gees, How Can You Mend a Broken Heart? And of course we've blackified it. We do some original material. I have friends who write for me. We do some tongue-in-cheek rapping, and I do a couple of songs from my Broadway canon, one of them being Big Black Man from the Full Monty. And there's some spoken word also.